Well, today is kind of a lazy, snowy Sunday. Not much I can do to the Suzuki today, but I am going to be painting it tomorrow. I'm going to paint the gas tank. I'm going to paint the new side cover, and the headlamp housing. But in the meantime, I've made some changes and repairs to my ignition switch wiring harness. And what I've done is I've added, so these switches often have unused contacts for different models, different options. And originally, the dealer who installed the directionals, they actually shoved a bullet connector into here. They just shoved it in there. It wasn't really connected to anything. And we're not having that here. I don't play those games. So what I did is I tapped off of one of these switched positive connections off the ignition switch, and I tapped a new wire off of that, and that is this. Now this wire, this connector, is going to connect to my new flasher relay. This is the input side to the flasher relay, and then the other end of the flasher relay will connect to this connector here that I've just added. So it's a little bit of a cleaner install than what was done 40 years ago, almost 40 years ago. So while I don't suspect this bike has ever been in an accident, handlebars are definitely out of adjustment by a little bit. It's quite noticeable. So we're going to not break the sliding glass door next to me. Let me move this thing closer to the room. Okay, here we go. This is tight. Tighter than I expected. It would be the least injurious way to do this. I put my leg here and maybe get off of it, maybe. Put my weight into it. Yeah. Good call on the breaker bar. It was tight. Tighter than I expected. Alright. So if I'm right, and I always am, just kidding, this thing should, obviously it's not loose right now. No. We've got work to do. Probably shouldn't have put the ratchet back, because, well, now I got to use the breaker bar to loosen the bolt just a little bit. You don't want to take this bolt completely out. You really don't want to do that, because if you do and that slug comes loose, now you got to go fishing for the slug, and really nobody has time for that. So, all right. And we take our hammer and should be able to just tap this down like that. There we go. Now we can even raise and lower this handle headset, I think, if this model allows for such a thing. I don't think it does. So now we got to straighten this out. How are we going to do that? What are we going to line this up to? I got the fender on there. There's not a lot of give and flip. There's not really a lot of movement to it. So I'm going to line this up as best I can. Really, you know, I should just take the fender off and line it up with the rim or the wheel. It's unfortunate that there's not a lot of good reference points otherwise. I mean, this is such a bad reference point. The center cover. You know. It's not like this thing is going to go down the highway at 60 miles an hour, but, you know, I also don't want to do a bad alignment job. Because taking this all back apart again would just really make me mad. I don't want to take it back apart. But, alright, we're better than we were. Let's just leave it at that. anything is better than what it was. Now, how tight should this be? There is a torque spec on this, but I should go look that up actually. Because I have a torque wrench and, you know, I got time, right? But yeah, that should be enough though. That should be fine. I don't know why it would need to be any tighter than that. So, there we go. All straightened out. Happy, happy. Okay. What's next? Well, again, the only thing left on this project is paint. And then, of course, final reassembly of the headset. Let's see if that looks straight. I think it does. I mean, you really don't know until you ride it how it feels. But it looks pretty good to me. I was always really good at lining these up on bicycles. I mean, I've never had a problem with that. So I think this will be fine. So yeah, what's left? Paint work. I got to paint the tank. I got to paint that. You know that. And then we're going to do the carburetor. I got to readjust the carburetor. I bought some of that purple thread locker. That's good for adjustment screws. Things that need to be readjusted later on, maybe. That stuff is surprisingly expensive. This is the stuff I bought. This is Loctite 222. It's their low strength thread locker. It's meant for adjustment screws and parts that need to be occasionally removed. You can't buy this in auto parts stores. No local auto parts store in my area sells this. So I brought my directionals over to my parents' house and I used my dad's wire wheel and I cleaned up all the aluminum mounting brackets and hardware. So they're no longer all craggly looking like they were. The other thing I did was I took my rack and I soaked both bracket ends into Evapor-Rust. And I got all that scaly rust off of the... there's still rust on this rack, but there's not much I'm going to do about that. It is what it is. Having the rack replated, I priced it out. I was quoted anywhere from $150,000 to $300,000. Chrome is expensive, and if I do anything with the chrome-plated accessories, racks, and the handlebars, it's going to be something like a powder coating solution because chrome is just too damn expensive for a bike that really isn't worth anything. The bike is worth fully, when I finish this project, I just might be able to get $800 for it if I sell it. Mopeds, or anything that can be classified as a moped, even though technically it's not a moped, aren't worth really much. And that is why there's not a lot of these being restored. I'm just killing time at this point, and of course money. This bike is not worth anything in this area. And one of the reasons for that is there's not a lot of urban... I live in southern New Hampshire, and I live close enough to the city to where I can justify owning something like this, but not... I mean, I live about maybe 20 miles away from the city. So, no, a little less than that, maybe 15. And there's just not a lot of roads that'll allow you to enjoy something like this. The road that I live on, that's a 45 mile an hour road right there. And you want to driving something like this on that road is a bit of a challenge. So there's not a lot of demand for these things. It's funny, you go on Craigslist, and every 14-year-old and his friend wants one of these things, but they don't have the money. They don't have money to buy one. You know, everybody, you go on Craigslist and you look at posts for moped wanted, and you look at what they're willing to give you. I will give you an iPod for a moped, or I'll give you a so you know who's looking for these things. It's kids who can't afford them. And you know, like when I was 14 years old, I would have killed for something like this, but I wouldn't have been able to pony up $800-900 that I would need to get from it to justify my efforts, maybe more. The other market for these smaller bikes might be RV owners. because something like this would go great in the back of an RV. And you're driving around the country, you park somewhere, you take this out, you speed around town, get your groceries, get your whatever, and see the sights, and then put it back in the RV. And those guys are mostly buying up the Chinese motor scooters because they're cheap and they're new. This isn't cheap and it's very old. It's also a two-stroke, which is an inconvenient thing for some people. So yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with this thing when I'm done, but I'm going to try to enjoy it. I mean, I'm putting a lot of work into this. This is probably one of the most extensive overhauls I have ever done on any vehicle. When you look at the percentage of parts that I've replaced, serviced, and worked on, compared to the overall size of the vehicle. I mean, I've pretty much gone through every system so far: fuel, exhaust, engine, mechanical, transmission, paint, electrical, cosmetic. I mean, I've gone through everything, and I've done it in a record short length of time. I did it over the course of about 2 months now, maybe 3 months. I think I'm on month number 3. I've spent a great deal of money, and at the end of this series, we're going to look at the actual tally of what it costs to do this, and I'm going to cry. It's a lot of work. And for something that doesn't really have much of a cult following, one of the driving forces behind doing this project and seeing it through to the end is the overall rarity of a Suzuki FZ50 in this country. There really aren't any out there. I'm going to do a search of all of Craigslist after I finish this and see how many are out there. Let's do it right now. All right, we're going to conduct 2 searches. We're going to look for the Suzuki FZ50. Now, this is searching all of the United States of America. Let's see how many FZ50s we can come up with. So I got one here. Ooh. Yeah, this one's in rough shape. I mean, it looks like somebody tried to fix it up, but ultimately it's not all that beautiful. I mean, every bike is beautiful in its own way, right? Well, this is like almost in the same condition mine was in, but it looks like it's missing the side panel covers. The asking price is $300, which I think is quite reasonable. The owner claims it has new piston and rings and gaskets. Now, whether that's a top end or all gaskets, I don't know. But it looks to me like he just did a top end. And notice how this one has knobby tires. Now, this particular one is obviously this guy had the same, rear too. Looks like he had the same problems I did. Finding tires for this bike is not easy in the United States because of its unique size. And these wheel sizes are more common on trail bikes than street mopeds and scooters. But yeah, this one here, it looks like it's a 70, it was an 82, so it has factory directionals. And that's pretty obvious because if you look, I'm not sure if the screen capture is capturing the mouse or not, but you'll notice that on the dashboard we have a separate light. Now on the newer models, this little location here, this is for the directional indicator, and the one behind it is for the high beam indicator. Because mine's a 1980, it only has one indicator, and that's just for the high beam, and that's located right above the ignition switch. And you'll notice that on the newer versions, the handlebars are designed to accept front directionals on either side. But $300 and is not currently in running condition. There's one. Let's go back. Let's see what else we can find. We have a Honda NC50 and a Suzuki FZ50 from Syracuse. Oh, this looks like the same, possibly the same seller, but this listing is no longer valid. Here's another one, but this is back in January, so these are getting kind of old. Here we have a Suzuki FZ50 in Florida. Ran 7 years ago when parked And so not currently in known running condition. They're asking $1,535. What do we get for that kind of money? Well, we get basically worn out, cracked up plastics, just like I had. Looks like it's got some old tires that are over 7 years old. A cracked seat. This is an orange 1979. Again, this is, as you can clearly see, high beam indicator only. This does not have factory turn signals. And if you look closely at it, it doesn't have turn signals at all. Check this out. This particular engine mount is gone, just like mine was, and it was never fixed. I fixed mine. I replaced the bushings. A lot of discoloration on the airbox. Seat is gone. This is definitely a bone, if there ever was one. But it's all there. It's fixable. And being from Florida, I'm surprised it doesn't have more miles on it. What was the odometer? 4,100 miles. Yikes. All right, so that's two. Again, this one, he claims it ran when parked, but I doubt it'll start up and run. And more than likely, you can't put it on the road without doing major work. Let's take a look. Here's Portland, Oregon. 3 days ago. Rare 1979 FZ50 restored and modded. $1,300. Portland, Washington. Okay, this looks nice. 2,300. Ooh, this one is beautiful. 2,300 miles. It's got good paint. Looks like it's got brand new tires, front and rear. Painted wheels. We've got, looks like some new plastics, a new seat cover. An aftermarket air filter, but that's okay. We've got an aftermarket expansion exhaust. This one actually looks quite nice. Nice paint. Really nice paint on that bike. Looks better than mine. 2,300 miles, and I would believe that. I would believe that is to be accurate. Looks like he's got a little bit of rust. But again, this is a 1979, so it doesn't have the directionals unless they were added later. Looks like he put $657 into it. He's got a Delorto 90 jet in there. So yup, jetted it. MLM exhaust. I might contact this guy because I want to know where he found that exhaust. He did a lot of what I did to mine. He actually paid somebody to do it, it looks like. Modify reed mounting holes to fit reed cage. Reeds are too stiff to run correctly. Reinstall factory. So he did not do the reeds. All right. That's actually pretty sweet. I didn't see this one. This is actually the second time I ran the search. I did not see this one. So there's three. Is that three? Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Here's another one. Here's number 4. Jacksonville. This guy is just selling parts. Here's another one. We'll call this one number 4. Let's see what we got here. It's not loading. There it goes. Buffalo, Ozarks. Land of the Ozarks. So that might be Arkansas. All right, let's take a look at this one. $450. Buffalo. This one here, it looks like it needs a seat. It needs an airbox. It needs both front and rear fenders. If you look closely, the front's broken. It needs, God only knows what. Oh, the leg shield is missing. This is a parts bike. If I were to call it anything, it's a parts bike. It needs a lot of work. A lot of stuff missing. He wants $450 and new tires, and he's basically telling me that it's the fastest, most powerful scooter ever from Japan, which is completely false. But okay. All right. That's number 4. Is that it? Oh, I think I just clicked on that one by accident. Here's one from Tucson, Arizona. Post is expired. So that's like 4 in the United States of America as of right now, February 24th, 2018. Let's take a look at the FA50, which is the more common model. Okay. Wow. Oh, look at this. Wow. The FA50. No wonder there's so many of them out there. Oh, you know what? Look at these guys. They put the FA50 tag in these, but they're not really FA50s. Let's go back. Page 1. Let's take a look at some. Here's one for parts. Expired, deleted by the author, whatever. Here's the second one. This guy's looking to trade for a truck, a cycle, or a car. Right. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Not a moped. That is true. This guy is, at least he's legit. But look at all these other, he's got a lot of bikes. But this one looks complete. Now, the thing about the FA50s is they are more common. They were cheaper, and in many communities, they actually, or many states, they did in fact qualify for moped law requirements, which made them more appealing to many people. The FZ50 technically did not qualify as a moped, so wasn't as popular. Here's a nice, pretty blue one. 939 miles, $500. A Marina, I don't know where the hell that is. Is it this one? For some reason, my computer is running very slow. We already saw that one. Here's one in 1984. Oh, this one's deleted. St. Louis. Here's another one. Look at these. These are in better shape. These are in really 642 miles. Practically brand new. Here's an 81. $1,000, Franklin, Kentucky. No low ballers, they say. I know what I got. Look at that. 5,000 miles. He's talking about low ballers at $1,000. Good luck, sir. New London. I don't think I saw this one. $300. Same bike, $300, 5,000 miles. Yellow. Chicago. Now, I would imagine these would be worth a bit more in Chicago because it's Chicago, right? It's a city. These are perfect in the city. But there we go. It's loading here. Here we go. Needs carb service. Tank flush to run. Bike is complete. $300. That's okay. All right. You throw a bore kit on that thing, you might be able to get 30 miles an hour out of it. I don't know if we saw this one. Oh, yeah, that was deleted. So a little more on the FA50s. They're a little more common. Here's some more. Orange County, Craigslist. Been stored for years. Doesn't run, but fixable. Of course, anything is. Needs a seat. $300. So if you're in the market for an FA50, now the FA50 is not as capable, it's not as fast, it's not as desirable as the FZ50. I'm not just saying that because I own an FZ50, but that is the truth. This guy wants to trade an FA50 for a paintball gun. Here's another, yeah, probably 14 years old, whatever. 15 maybe 16. This cutie has not seen the streets for 14 years. That scares me because when you have a vehicle that's not driven, no pictures either. I think that's it for the FZ50s. I'm having some major lag issues right now. All right, there we go. We'll look at one more. This one's in Phoenix. This might be one. Oh. Yeah, it's sending me right to the Craigslist search page. All right, well that's it. That was fun. All right, well that's it for now. Let's. So with the exception of that 1978 Suzuki we found, which was what, $1,300, none of them had nearly the level of work and detail that I put into mine. So I feel good about that. I feel like, at the end of the day, I haven't thrown all of my money away. And I'll have something unique that nobody else has, at least not in this area. And again, only 4 in the country that are currently for sale as of this moment. And only one of them appears to be in running condition. So that is impressive. And it's funny because they're not all that complicated. I mean, it's not a very complex engine. Parts are pretty easy to get because of the FA50 was so successful in the U.S. It shares a lot of the same internal parts as the FZ50. Basically, the same block. The FZ50 had the faster it had the faster land speed than the FA50. Had a bigger carburetor, less restriction anyway. I mean, really, the main difference between the FA and the FZ, in terms of what could be a determining factor in performance, is the carburetor. And everything else. Oh, the transmission gear ratios, I believe, are possibly a bit different on the FA50. It has bigger wheels, is designed for in-city driving, and that's about it. This was designed for whatever you wanted to throw it at. But I'm not sure why I have dust and dirt on this thing. But yeah, I'm really going nuts with this buggy, and I can't wait to finish it. But that should be all done. I'm thinking this is going to be the last week for construction, because once I have the paint work done, I can finalize the assembly, I can reassemble the fuel system, and I can get it started up for real this time. The previous startup attempts were really just to see, and I'm glad I did what I did. I started it up, and I found there was a problem with the carburetor. I fixed that. Almost blew up my brand new top end. That would have blown really badly. But that's the thing. And that's why I emphasize that getting a bike like this is a good way to hone your mechanical skills. If you have any interest in developing mechanical skills and learning about simple hand tools and how carburetors work and how an engine works, starting out with a moped or even a motor scooter or even a motorcycle is a great way to hone those skills and really get your hands dirty, because they're not worth a lot of money. A moped like this, parts are very inexpensive. If I were to blow up the top end, it would cost me all of $150 to fix. That's it. That's replacing the entire top end. And that's not bad. You can't really do that with a car. So if you are a young person, or even an older person, and you want to really get your hands dirty, buy something like this for a couple $100 on Craigslist and have fun. The other thing is, tools. You don't have to spend a lot of money on tools. This is a Harbor Freight breaker bar. I think I paid $10 for this. If I were to buy a Craftsman or a Snap-on, it would have cost a lot more. All my tools, I don't buy expensive tools. I buy the cheapest crap I can find. I look for good machining quality, but that's about it. I don't go spending hundreds of dollars on Snap-on, Matco, or any higher-end tool brand. I use Harbor Freight. I use some Craftsman tools. All my tools are cheap. Some of them I've owned since I was 6 years old, and they were cheap then. So that's you don't have to spend a lot of money to learn new skills. Now, I'm doing this project really just to kill some winter boredom. It really has helped break up this winter and kind of keep my mind sharp. And I have improved some skills as far as painting goes and things like that. But, I'm no stranger to repairing engines and motorbikes and cars and bicycles. So, to me, this is really just, like twiddling my thumbs. But for someone who just wants to learn some new stuff, have a little bit of fun doing it, and not spend a ton of money, you can do this yourself. Now, a lot of the money I spent in this project has been in cosmetic repairs, like plastics and fenders. All that stuff's been replaced. That does get expensive when you start going for cosmetic repairs. But basic mechanical stuff isn't that expensive. Bearings are only a couple bucks a piece, and there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's like 12 bearings in that engine. You could replace them all for $100. So, it's not really all that crazy. You don't have to spend a lot of money to do this. I'm really shooting for a good looking, good running, Some of the cables I replaced, for example, even though these aren't expensive individually, they do add up when you replace all of them. Some of these cables I could have saved. I could have saved the original throttle cable and the brake cable. I could have done that. Speedometer cable didn't even need to be replaced, but I put a new one in anyway. So you could have saved a few bucks there while still learning some stuff. One of the things that sets my work apart from a lot of other people who do this stuff just for fun is I do go to every length to make it look as clean as possible. And one of those things that I do, that some people don't do, is I take all the nuts and bolts that I remove for each part of the project, and I clean them with a wire wheel. And that really makes things look that much cleaner. Like, for example, if you look down here, you'll see that the axle spacer right there and that nut or that bolt have all been cleaned with a wire wheel. So there's no rust, there's no dirt, there's no discoloration. All the bolts that hold the engine in place, all of them have been cleaned. All the bolts on the wheels have been taken off and cleaned with a wire wheel. Basically a bench grinder with a wire wheel on one side. And that really makes the difference between, you know, a half-assed backyard repair and a real professional looking job. That makes a huge difference. This one here I haven't done, but to give you an example, this is what all of them kind of looked like. That one right there. That has not been cleaned. But I'm going to take that back off again and I'm going to clean it. And I don't think I didn't do these either. Those have not been done. But everything else, all the engine case bolts, shock mount bolts, hardware, all cleaned with a wire wheel. It makes a difference. And on that note, I think I'm going to conclude this video. And the next time you see this, I'll have the fuel. We'll be putting the fuel tank on, the handlebar, and will be reassembled. All that's going to go back together. Hopefully the paint job comes out decent enough and I can actually do that. So stay tuned.